How is it that a species never ends? One individual dies and yet there are others to take place. Death without life has no meaning. But what is it that overpowers death? Or in other words, even when an individual dies, the species does not. What is the process that prevents extinction of species? Rightly so, it's the reproduction. The meaning of re is again and production is to make. So, it is to make again. Or in other words, it is the production of more of one's own kind. More of one's own kind. A dog gives birth to puppies, a cat to kittens, the mango seed to the mango tree, and so on. This is what is reproduction, and reproduction helps to continue the species. Not only this, imagine if there was no reproduction and there was only one individual of a species. Would we notice it? No. Why we are able to notice cows, buffaloes, roses, ferns? Because they are more than one in number. How do they increase in number? How do they multiply? Once again, because of reproduction. So, in a concise way, we can say the significance of reproduction is it helps to continue life, which in other words means continue species. Second, it helps to multiply. So, from these 2 points you can well understand how significant reproduction is, and all living beings, irrespective of their size, shape or the number, can reproduce. So, today what we are going to study is how individuals reproduce. Reproduction is not only of one type, it can be of 2 types: asexual and sexual. Now, why this difference? The asexual reproduction involves a single individual. A part of the body is able to give rise to a new individual, while in the case of sexual, 2 individuals are required. Their cells combine with each other to start a new life. So, that is why it is called sexual, because it involves sex organs, a specialized organs made up of specialized cells like ova and sperms. But in the case of asexual, it is only the vegetative parts which help to give rise to new individuals. So, now one by one we will study, because you know asexual cannot be of only one type. There are many different ways in which asexual reproduction can take place. Some of these methods are: the simplest method that is seen in unicellular organisms is fission. Now, what is fission? Fission is just splitting of a cell into 2 cells, right? Now, which organisms show fission? Protozoa, bacteria. If we take the case of amoeba, what we find is that first the nucleus divides. Now, can you guess why first the nucleus divides? Why not cytoplasm? You see, nucleus is the controlling body. So, if say first cytoplasm divides, then there is only one nucleus, which means one cell will not have nucleus. So, it will die, it cannot survive without nucleus. If a family is separating into two parts, what is the first thing that they will make? A kitchen, because we can't survive without food. So, first the kitchen has to be functional. Similarly, first the nucleus has to be made. So, the nucleus starts dividing into two. Now, here the nucleus is dividing. Along with that, simultaneously, there is a kind of pinching of cytoplasm. How does that take place? There is a constriction in the center. Constriction simply means narrowing down. So, the cell starts narrowing down towards the center and ultimately just gets pinched away. This will keep becoming narrow and finally we will have two cells. Just for convenience, or you can say conventionally, they are called daughter cells. This is the simple process of fission. First nucleus divides and then the cytoplasm divides. Now, when only two daughter cells are formed, it is called binary fission. A bacteria also divides like this. However, in the case of malarial parasite, which is scientifically called Plasmodium, many daughter cells are formed, and such a fission is called multiple fission. Example, Plasmodium. You see, the amoeba is irregular shape, so division can take place anyhow and anywhere, except in Leishmania, in which case it is along the orientation of a whip-like structure which is present at the tip. So, you can say there is a kind of vertical splitting, definite direction of the splitting, but here there is no definite direction of the splitting. So, basically fission is of two types, binary, multiple. In binary fission, two daughter cells are formed, in multiple many are formed, but multiple also helps in tiding unfavorable conditions by developing a thick coat. So, this is one method of asexual reproduction. An oft repeated nationalistic statement is, let's not fragment our country. What is this fragment? What is the meaning of the word fragment? Fragment means a small piece, and the process by which small pieces are formed is fragmentation. Let us go back to class 9 biodiversity. Now, there we studied that the simplest organisms are unicellular, and next is multicellular organisms, but without any differentiation of cells. And what was the example? Example is Spirogyra. Spirogyra is an algae which is multicellular with cells placed one above the other like a ladder, and all cells are alike. There is nothing like this is head, this is heart, or this is flower and this is stem or root, only same type of cells. So, each cell can also live independently. Now, as this Spirogyra is found in water, sometimes due to water current, it breaks up. Just like what is happening in metros, a big large joint family breaks up into small parts. Even the business houses, let us take the case of big business houses like Ambani's. Now, they have broken into two parts, Mukesh and Anil Ambani. But because both of them were self-sufficient, they are both blossoming. Same is the case of Spirogyra. When due to water current the cells break up, we get small fragments of algae, and each is capable of living independently, and that is how from one mother cell we get, or not cell, one mother plant we get two daughter plants. And so what has happened? The number of individuals has increased, so it is a method of reproduction. So basically fragmentation means making of small parts. Another method which is very common in animals as well as plants is budding. Now budding takes place both in case of yeast, which is a plant, as well as in the case of animals like hydra. Yeast, hydra. Yeast is a unicellular organism. So a small outgrowth appears on the mother cell and the cytoplasm starts flowing into this outgrowth. This outgrowth is called bud. Slowly this bud grows in size and now it has nucleus or nuclear material, to be more precise, and cytoplasm and all the required organelles. There is a nuclear vacuole in case of yeast. Now this bud can remain attached to the mother cell also, and when it is mature it will form another bud. So slowly we have a chain of yeast cells which forms a colony. This is how budding takes place in the case of yeast. However, in the case of hydra, the bud does not remain attached with the parent body. It separates like this. This is a hydra. These are its tentacles. A small bud appears. It grows in size and separates when it is ready to live independently. And so we have a new individual. So basically what is the difference between, say, fission and budding? In case of fission, the mother cell divided into two. Here is also another cell being formed, but it is as a kind of outgrowth which may remain attached to the mother cell as in the case of yeast, or may separate. But in the case of fission, they eventually always separated. And in fragmentation, of course, if there was no nuclear division involved, it was just breaking up. See, in biology it is important to keep differences in mind, otherwise everything will seem similar. So from here on we will go to more complex organisms and their methods of reproduction.